This is Steffen Schmidt. We're down here at Dania Beach in South Florida, and this is an interesting year. This is 2011, the end of 2011. Next year there's going to be a presidential election, and I guess I want to remind you that our interest in coastal zone management, coastal policy, and in research, and as well as programs to preserve and to restore beach habitats, animal habitats, and a natural environment along the shores, does depend quite a bit on who controls Congress and the White House and what their political positions are, or their views on such issues as the environment and coastal areas. There are some wide discrepancies between different elements in the United States, different interest groups and others, in terms of how much government should do, for example, and how much we should leave the management of these areas to local communities. There's a lot of interest in having local communities and counties and municipalities and state governments as well determine the land use, restoration, and other aspects of the coastal zones of the United States. There are others who believe that only the federal government can establish and maintain and enforce a regime that will look at the United States as a whole, all of the different coastal areas on both the Atlantic and Pacific coast, as well as the Great Lakes, and have more uniform criteria for development, oil drilling offshore, use of beaches, renourishment of beaches, management of fisheries, marshes, wetlands, and mangrove areas, and so forth. At the NOVA Oceanographic Center, we have interest in all of those things. There's some coral reefs that are off this coast right here. They're small, they're not the most famous coral reefs, but obviously there are others further south in Key West and other places that are very valuable and that are a natural resource that's very important. Coral reefs are in many ways the growing ground and sometimes the breeding ground for fish species and other marine life that is both important for tourism but also very important for people's diets. Americans love to eat seafood, and all of those are essentially managed by the United States, and in some cases by the United States and other countries in international agreements. And whoever happens to control the majority in the House and in the Senate and Congress and the White House has a lot to say about it. What can you do as an individual, as a student, a researcher, a scientist, or whatever? You can get involved at the very local level. You can join local organizations that are interested in maintaining, preserving, and improving coastal areas, beaches, and other areas. You can get involved in politics as well. You can volunteer for a candidate who's running for office. You can help inform candidates who are running for office. If they don't have a position on the environment, especially in our case on the coastal environment, you can offer to brief them, you can send them information, you can get together with groups of people who are interested in having that candidate address those issues and meet with them. You can raise funds for them and say, this is an important piece of our community, our livelihood, our life, and we hope that if you get elected that you will show concern for it, and we'd love to work with you on it. And of course you can oppose candidates who to you seem to be a threat or not very helpful for the future of the coastal areas. So those are some things you can do. You can also join nonprofit groups and help promote them. Foundations and other groups that may exist that work on parallel to the government on these kinds of issues are also very important. And I would suggest that you honestly, once you are done with your classwork, and even while you're still a student, that you consider participating. I know you volunteer for a lot of things. Why not start really volunteering for organizations that try to essentially change the discussion and improve the discussion on coastal policy and coastal zones? So those are some of my recommendations to you. Science is wonderful, but in the end, everything is politics. And I'm a political scientist, so I say that with a certain amount of conviction. Thanks a lot. See you on the internet.